Wait, hang on. So can you hear me?
Yes. How are you?
And I'm not getting the right audio. So.
Yeah, take your time. I hear you very well, actually. Oh, not anymore. Nope, I can't hear you. It was good at the beginning, and I lost you.
Bingo.
Oh, there.
All right, we're good now. Sorry, I'm just going through all the audio checks here. I had a malfunction before we started, and I was like, oh no.
Perfect.
I had to reboot another backup system, so we're good.
No worries. So glad to have you. Finally, we've been like chasing each other for years.
I know, it's crazy, right?
That's good. You've been on my friend's podcast recently, Mark Divine.
Oh yeah, Mark's great.
Yeah, I love that guy.
He's a special person for sure.
Yeah, I agree on that. He's like really different than anyone on this planet.
Yeah, I think it's where he's been in such a intense world, and then he's kind of transcended into the spiritual world. I think it's relatively unique.
Yeah, and probably I think you need to go through that extreme situation to be able to understand what's going on our planet and how humanity is made or is meant to be, not it's made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, special guy.
Yeah, but okay, so. The podcast is going to be registered on this Zoom. I think recording is on now. So we'll record this podcast, then we do sequences, shorts and reels that goes on both Cyborg Gains and Biohackers Updates on Instagram, on YouTube as well for both channels. They go on various websites that we have, like of course, the Biohackers magazine website, the Cyborg Gains website, my website, fallacara.com as well. So we are trying to spread it a bit everywhere. And obviously, it goes on every single platform, like Spotify, Apple, and all these things. So I'll register the intro later by myself, but we're going to start right away if you're ready. Question before or?
No, ready to go.
Cool. So glad to have you. All right, let's start. 1, 2, 3. So Wade, thank you for joining No Plan B podcast. I'm so happy to have you today. It's been a long time that we've been trying to be together and to chat a bit about what you do. What you've done, where you're coming from, and where you're going, which is way more important, I guess. So why don't you start by giving a short intro of yourself? I know that you come from bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding, which is a very important point. You come from the same country I was in, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And you were at University of New Brunswick. This is new for me. I didn't know. But go ahead, please.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Great to be here. Delighted to be on the podcast, and hopefully we can lay down some gold for your listeners so that we can help them kind of achieve their best self. That's always our goal and our objective, and we'll get into that. So background, I'll try to be as brief as possible. Canadian kid, grew up on the east coast of Canada. I was born in Toronto, grew up in the east coast, that's in New Brunswick by Maine, and then lived on the west coast and then traveled all over the world. But fell in love with bodybuilding at the age of 15 when my sister was diagnosed with cancer. I was living 5 miles to my nearest neighbor up a dirt road my parents were caretakers of a private resort. So during that 4 years of her illness, I got clear about that your health isn't a guarantee and your life isn't a guarantee. She died at the age of 22. That impacted me on a very significant level. Concordantly, before she got diagnosed, she gave me a bodybuilding book. I was Muscle and Fitness with Troy Zucolato on the cover of the magazine, Mr. California, 2 pretty girls, and I thought, oh my God, man, if I had those muscles, maybe I'd get those girls. So I bought the Joe Weider lie, and I built a gym in my barn, which was just kind of like, I think it was Rocky IV when he fought Drago. It was like, sawhorses and pulleys and tractor tires and 2-wheelers. And, I had a little barbell set, and I built cable setups and everything. And I would just go out there and train. And sometimes my hands would freeze to the bar. I'd train in a snowmobile suit sometimes because it gets really cold in the Canadian winter.
Yeah.
And I had this burning desire to compete at the Mr. Universe, compete at the Mr. Olympia, and own a supplement company and live in Venice Beach, California. And eventually, things happened. But it was 15 years ago, Matt Gallant and I, who was also a personal trainer from the same part of the world, we met up and connected, and decided that we would form up an education company based on bodybuilding. I just returned from my first Mr. Universe contest in 2003 in India, and it was an extraordinary experience. And then he said, well, it's really unusual that you're a plant-based guy that's not on drugs and competing at the Mr. Universe. We could write a book about that. Now, I didn't even own a computer at the time. I was using like internet cafes and things like that. We're going way back on the time machine. He didn't believe I didn't have a computer. I didn't believe he was making money online. So we decided we'd start a business together. We wrote a book called Freaky Big Naturally at the time. And we quickly became the number one selling de facto authors in the bodybuilding space. And the goal was to help young, impressionable people like I had been to avoid the pitfalls of bodybuilding. And I think bodybuilding at one level is the original biohackers are bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And I would also say it's also a great demonstration of when it goes too far and becomes detrimental. So the difference that I think bodybuilders are looking for is they're looking to maximize a very, muscle mass, low body fat levels, muscularity, and things like that. Where we've evolved to as BiOptimizers is not necessarily how to maximize. So that might be a specific part of someone's overall part. The idea is to get to the place of how to optimize. What is the optimal? We know the RDAs, things like that, what prevents disease in pregnant women. We don't necessarily know what those optimal levels are, but we're getting closer to it with data censoring. And so the last 18 years, Matt and I have been on this quest to optimize humans. And we started in the digestive system. I had some digestive issues after the universe. We corrected those. And then we moved into nervous systems and into brain optimization. And now BiOptimizers, we just last year got on the Inc. 500. So a rapidly growing company. We have a great research facility and lab with Birch International University in Croatia. We have an amazing testing lab in Iowa, a nootropics facility for cognitive enhancement. So we're really on the state-of-the-art development about how do we optimize human performance. And I just got back from competing in the Natural Mr. Olympia at the age of 50. So that was exciting. I didn't win, but the point of the matter is, I'll take the response. And the good news was I felt better competing at 50 than I did when I was competing in my 30s. And that's largely in part because of the biological optimization technology that we outline in our books like Sick to Superhuman and, of course, what's coming out next year.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, age is a number. You don't look like 50 for sure. But to go back to what you said before, they were the first biohackers for sure. But I think that you push the barrier a bit further because instead of just optimizing the muscle mass, that was the goal of these guys, you optimize the complete body for longevity. They were not looking for longevity at that when they were doing bodybuilder. And matter of fact, if we go back to these guys, what I've seen in our society is many of them are dying very young because of the wrong supplement that they were putting in their body. So I get the fact that you're coming from this field, and thanks to that, you actually took that advantage to make the perfect company that can serve the world. Now, I have a question for you. You started bodybuilding at the age of 15. This is pretty young. Yeah. What could be the drawback of starting that young? I've heard that when you start growing your muscle in a young age, you can compromise a lot of others part of your body, your brain, your gut. You spoke about it. But the functionalities of your body are not optimized when you're too young to start bodybuilding. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a lot of conjecture in that aspect. And if I was to concoct, say, maybe the perfect routine for people at an early age, and you have to realize, going back to your age as a number, we're looking at the development of the nervous system, the hormone system, and one's capacity to build muscle. And so there's a couple of caveats there that are differentiated between men and women. First off, I think if I look at what I would say the most developed and optimized physiques, and I would consider myself an expert. I've been exposed to such a wide variety of different types of physiques. Your body becomes its function. I think that if people start with a background in either martial arts, gymnastics, or dance, I've noticed that the people who started off at an early age in those particular disciplines seem to have better nervous system development, proprioception, and they respond to training later in their life much better. And so if I look at almost all of the top competitors in bodybuilding and also in other athletes, they go back to that fundamental aspect. And gymnastics was developed for warriors eventually for proprioception. Dance is always a way of expression and is extremely refined motor units. And a lot of people look at muscle building as I'm tearing down a muscle and I'm building up muscle. They're not looking at it as really a response to the stimulation on the nervous system and the recovery that leads to an increase in muscle. The more sophisticated the nervous system is, the better it is. Now, when you get into weight training, I think where there's a right and a wrong aspect of what you're talking about. And that is, if you're training improperly without proper form and doing what I call the cosmetic exercises versus the fundamental exercise. In other words, you're just doing bicep curls and tricep curls and bench press, as opposing to, full body squats, deadlifts, presses, overhead, these type of full body where you're using your full body. You can get developmental issues and they show up. Generally, people who have a strong core development with full body exercises, the classical kind of training, I think you can start that relatively young with no problems whatsoever. I think it's only going to assist you. So again, I would go that athletic, gymnastics, dance as a young kid or martial arts, and then moving into weight training, generally when the hormone system starts to kick. So when you get into puberty and those type of things where that kicks in, that's going to be a time where you're going to maximize your muscle mass. And if you look at longevity side, early in life is where, when you have that optimal hormone, right, that's where you want to pack on as much muscle as you can at that age, because that's going to give you muscle mass that will carry you through the rest of your life. As you get older, more into my age, I'm 50 now, you really want to be focusing on cardiovascular and range of motion. And I think that early receptive gymnastics, martial arts training is really good for flexibility and nervous system refinement. Then you do the weight training and then you work on cardio. And then I'll make one more caveat. And I'm going to defer to Peter Attia. Peter Attia has done some great stuff in longevity. And he's talking about, of course, he was a competitive cyclist. And he noticed that his research said that if you can get to the top 2.5 percentile in your age category for cardiovascular, you get all the benefits and liabilities. When you start going into that upper range, you start getting into the liabilities. So that's kind of, to me, the threshold of optimum. And I would apply this across the board. You want to be in the top 2.5 percentile of body fat, top 2.5 percentile in range of motion, top 2.5 percentile in cardiovascular, top 2.5% of in muscular and muscle mass. Well, does that make you qualified as a bodybuilder or as a super ultra endurance athlete? No, but it puts you on the threshold of excellence without overly compromising your system. And that's the goal that I'm working on right now as a 50-year-old, and I'm a little bit behind I was undeveloped in my cardiovascular areas, and I'm working on that now.
Okay, so let's jump into the subject then. To do that, to get into that threshold that you're as your target, you need some sort of supplement. This is what you do to make them, so you have access to them.
Yeah, of course. But I will say that with a caveat. It might sound odd from a guy that runs a supplement company. You can't supplement your way out of a bad lifestyle.
Haha, I love it.
Right? You just can't.
So many people do that.
But no matter how good your lifestyle is, you are going to have to supplement if you want to be optimized in your health. And then as you move more into the longevity program, you're basically trying to offset the natural degenerative systems in your system. And that's going to have a genetic component and a lifestyle component. So for example, if you can possess the genes like I do of risk to cardiovascular incidents, right? I carry those genes. Well, guess what? I need to be building a dietary program and a supplement program that is going to offset those risks. Conversely, someone else who had blood sugar ish or a predisposition for depression or Alzheimer's or cognitive decline, everybody has a certain, strengths and weaknesses. And so if you target your supplements and your lifestyle around that, you can probably extend your healthy lifestyle by, I would estimate, 20% of what you would be taking out earlier. And conversely, the poor lifestyle would probably take you out 20% earlier than what you would if you had a reasonable lifestyle. So I think there's a pretty big variance there.
Yeah, because in genetics, 40% is unchangeable, and 60% comes from epigenetics and environment. So this is where you can play to optimize. Now, can you take any type of supplement, or do you need to choose the supplement? Because when you look at the market today, there are so many companies trying to say they make the best supplement, they do this, they do that. How do you differentiate BiOptimizer from the others? Of course, being number one makes that an easy job for you, but still, why don't we explain that to our audience, why BiOptimizer is the choice?
Thank you for that. Well, it's a bit of intention and a bit of good luck. In 2003, when I competed at the Mr. Universe contest, I had ran a nutritional supplement store. I worked in every area of the industry, and I knew it was pretty hit and miss in those days. And after the Mr. Universe, I gained 42 pounds of fat and water after that contest. My digestive system completely crashed. Now, what I didn't know is I don't have the genes for detoxification of my gut. I found that out 20 years later. But at the time, that was the situation. And we met a fellow by the name of Dr. Michael O'Brien, who had recovered from cirrhosis of the liver, colon cancer. He had helped Bernard Jensen, one of the most famous nutritionists in the world, recover from cancer as well. And he suggested that all disease started in the guts, and the degradation of our enzymatic production in the body, it enabled disease to flourish or dysfunction in the microbiome. So he taught us about enzymes and probiotics and hydrochloric acid and these unique compounds, as well as certain mineral combinations and vitamin combinations that had a positive effect in the regenerative capabilities of the body. And I tested it, Matt tested it, we went very aggressive with him, and it worked. And he was in his 70s and looked absolutely amazing. He was one of the most vibrant, healthiest people I've ever met. So he was a testament to it. And so from that became a possibility. When I saw Dr. O'Brien in his 70s, so vibrant, so strong, so healthy, and never been compromised, I was like, obviously this guy knows what he's doing. And I've been on the performance side. So we set the standard, and we built our first product in 2005, about a year and a half later, which was Masszymes, which was an enzyme that was directed to handle particularly proteolytic enzymatic function, which is the one that diminishes first, and it's also the most expensive. We also included 17 total enzymes inside that product to make a universally available enzyme, and that caught fire. And we were just releasing 4.0 in the first of the new year, so we continue to test on that. So that set a standard for us. We came out with P3OM, our proteolytic formulation, which is absolutely insane what it's done. You tested virtually every single probiotic in the world. And when I say testing, we have a research facility in Croatia at the Birch International University with PhDs in microbiome, cellular docking, AI. You wouldn't believe what the tech that we have there. And we're testing everything to continue to improve. And you can improve through better strains. You can improve with better suppliers, with prebiotics, with adjuncts to what accelerates enzymatic activity. And so we've spent a great deal of time figuring out, not accepting what we're produced right now, always looking to improve. So excellence isn't a destination, it's a process.
Yeah, it's a journey. Yeah, I agree on that.
So that set the standard for all of our products, and we just go find the best person we can. We create a situation that's economically viable for that genius. We handle the logistics of production and delivery and marketing stuff, which many of the true geniuses in the field are not experts in that. They've spent 20 years in a lab.
Yeah.
And then we built cultures and systems around them to bring their genius and distribute it to the world. And that's been our formula for success, and it's working.
Now you intrigued me. One point that you said, I'm in science, as you know, and I've been in biotech for almost my whole life. You're using AI to project what the effect of the molecules or compounds that you're using are made for in terms of statistics? This is the way that you're using AI?
Well, I can't comment exactly on all the proprietary aspects. I mean, my AI and genetic guys would be a little bit frustrated. But what I would say is, when you're looking at how cell functions, there is a part of the challenge and opportunity with AI is asking the right questions and the quality of the data set. But from that, you're able to, I would say, improve the predictability of successful combinations. You are still going to have to test those combinations.
Correct.
Because it's only a predictive model. It's not an absolute model. And sometimes inside of human biology, then there are unexpected things that occur. So what looks good on paper doesn't necessarily translate into the real world.
Yeah.
Conversely, sometimes something doesn't look that great on paper and uniquely it emerges as something quite powerful. So we haven't got to the state where, I would say that those predictive models are absolutely explosively better than the application of kind of human intent or human design. But what it does is allows us to go through a lot of models very quickly.
Yeah, it's an accelerator.
And reduce the time to, ideation to actually creating a viable compound. And our philosophy is, number one, we're looking at developing products that we feel that we can produce a superior product to everybody in the marketplace. And number two, that there's enough people looking for that particular product that it's financially viable for us to go at that. And because cost of research and development is extreme, especially in the supplement industry, most companies don't do it. It's a bunch of Me Too products off, half-baked scientific lab experiments, and it's a Me Too product.
Yeah.
Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. So it's hash and maybes on studies, not real science. And we've
paid studies, even worse, like people that pay other labs to do the studies. So that brings us to one topic that is I know very important for you. Magnesium is one of the compounds that is so copied, so available on different sources, but I know that the way that you do it, the way that yours is different, and it works actually because I use it every day.
Thank you very much. Yeah, magnesium was an interesting one, and again, necessity is the mother of invention. I was running 3 companies about 5 years ago, and I was using, cognitive enhancers, stimulants, excessive dieting, all sorts of, I would say, optimization programs, and leading in more into maximization to meet the demands. And I was under a particularly stressful period, and we did a test on my brain, and my brain electrical activity had gone down to that of a 70-year-old. I was just in a state of permanent exhaustion and just got used to it. And I thought, man, how's that possible? I'm doing all these things, I seem to screw it up again. So I did a series, I got my naturopath to do a bunch of tests on me. And the interesting thing is magnesium was one of the compounds that I was really down on. And I thought, I'm supplementing with magnesium.
Yeah.
What's going on here? And so I referred to some notes. I attended a seminar with Charles Poliquin, who I think was one of the greatest researchers out there in optimizing performance. He coached gold medals in 27 different Olympic sports and the who's who of sport, professional sports. And in his notes, he had suggested that he was using 4 different types of magnesium to offset the training demands of his Olympic and professional athletes, because he said that their nervous system couldn't take the training volume, but if you added magnesium, their nervous system would recover quicker. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then he said, I use different magnesiums because the research is indicating that they're taken up by different parts of the body. Some gets taken up by the veins, some taken up by the brain, some by the muscle tissue, some in the intestinal tract. I'm like, oh, well, what's going to work? So Matt and I were like, well, we don't know. So we just bought every magnesium compound that we could, and we started testing. And we have this, I have a bucket theory of nutrition that was developed out of orthomolecular nutrition by Hoffman, Hawkins, and Linus Pauling way back in the 70s. And that is that you take a compound in divided dosages throughout the day until you break the GI barrier, AKA you get runs.
Yeah.
And so we did this with each magnesium compound. We take citrate, or we take orotate, or we have the different, and we would just take it. And we found that you would break tolerance at very different levels. Like one, you could take 1 gram and you're getting the runs. Another one, you'd take 2 grams And then we started putting them in combinations. And when you put them in combinations, your tolerance to how much magnesium you could take would go up. So I was like, aha. Yeah. So we worked through the bottle over and over and over again. And finally, we settled on 7 different types of magnesium. Now, the problem was, again, why didn't no one else do this? Well, when you try to combine all those magnesiums through a machine, it's going to filter this out. It sticks together. It doesn't have a nozzle. You can't produce enough.
Okay.
Well, most companies
I didn't know that.
use chemical flow regulators that are not great for you in order to do that. We're like, we're not doing that. So we had to develop a special nozzle on the machine in order to get the compounds to go through. Number 2, we didn't use the flow regulators that are out there that have all the nasty chemical stuff in that. So that was the second part. And then we got to the capsule. And because of the unique variants within the magnesiums, the capsules would break. So we had to get a specialized capsule in order to put that all together. So there was some serious, developmental challenges. But when we actually turned out that product, my magnesium levels just shot up. And I used the SpectraCell test for those. I think that's the great tests for testing how much is getting into your cells. And my magnesium showed up. But what was better was just how I felt. My sleep improved. The electrical flow in my brain came back. I just felt so much better on a psychological, emotional, and physiological level. So that I felt was irrelevant to the feeling. I mean, important. And then we've been continually testing in our lab. And what's interesting about magnesium, it's also a compound that improves the functioning of a lot of the good bacteria in your body as well. So that's another benefit. So it seems to enhance other supplements, your bacteria cultures, most of your bacteria cultures. And we've optimized magnesium. I think we've improved it three more times after that.
After the first release, because I remember like 2 years ago or a year ago, people were talking about the only compound of magnesium that works is magnesium threonate. And it was like everywhere. So you were starting to see stickers, magnesium threonate on every single compound.
Right.
But yeah,
and there's a little bit of a backstory on that one as well that a lot of people aren't aware of. So the threonate guys, there's a company that produces it. They have they basically have a patent on threonate, which allows them to demonstrate certain stuff. And then there's a Chinese version outside of North America that's available. And the thing is you have, in order for you to use the threonate, you have to have a certain amount in your magnesium things, and you can't use other magnesiums because the capsule is going to be so low. So it's a little bit of a sticky situation. I think that threonate's a good compound and is valuable, but it certainly doesn't compete with a multi-stage magnesium. It just doesn't cut the mustard. So that's a little inside baseball for people.
Interesting.
Because sourcing compounds is a big part of making a great product. You'll get massive. Certificate of analysis isn't the indicator of the efficacy of the product.
Yeah. What else, if that is?
Well, you want to be able to test this in a lab situation to see if it's activated. It's activating the mechanisms in the biological systems that you want. And you'll be surprised. You'll get, let's say you get a nutrient compound, you're testing maybe 20 different suppliers. And some compounds we've tested 100 different suppliers. And sometimes there's only 2 or 3 in the marketplace. On general, you're probably somewhere between 10 and 30 different people. You'll get variances of hundreds of percentages points. They all pass the certificate of analysis. Yeah. And you're going, what's it? And so there are nuances that you may not be aware of. It could be where it's stored, how it's formed, where it grew from, how the lab manufactured. There's all these different things that some you can be aware of and some that you won't be aware of. And so you have to test it and continually test it to make sure the quality's there.
Would you say that the lab grade would be the main source then? Because you can have access to lab grade product like almost pure 99.9%, but that is not even enough.
Exactly. It's kind of like weight. Okay, you're 180 pounds. Are you 180 pounds at 30% body fat? Are you 180 pounds at 10% body fat?
Yeah.
Do you have good cardiovascular? Are you 6'5"? Are you 5'5"?
Yeah.
The single identification aspect is only one indicator, and there's a lab analysis, contaminant compounds,
Correct.
bioactive ingredients, fillers, binders, contaminants of other elements.
The grade of the powder, if it's on powder or liquid or whatever.
And then the bonding agents. Then there's age, time, oxidation that may have occurred in those things. There's a lot of different things that go into it. And thankfully, we got some smart people that can run some great tests and pick off what goes wrong. And also, it makes sure that our suppliers are not falling, into malpractice in that they're cheaping out supplies because of demand or volume or different sourcing. They might be getting a compound from a variety of different origin sources and then batching them all in one batch. And so you always have to be on it all the time because of the demands of business at scale.
Yeah, I think that your logo is the symbol of quality in a way, because today, as soon you start having some sort of influence on Instagram, for example, or Facebook or whatever social media it is, some companies will go like, hey, you want to do your own supplement production with your name on it? Like, come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I call it the Me Too product, right? And there, if you for people who are not on the inside, there's a whole bunch of companies out there that will contact you as soon as you have a certain threshold of followers. They're going to pitch you to white label a bunch of products, and you'll see all these different influencers come out with their own version or this version. And largely in part, and I hate to say it, most of those are garbage, but they all prey to the margin that they can make. The best influencers, though, or the ones that have the most relevance and the most sustaining power, are the people who literally try the products, test the products, and advocate for products and brands that actually deliver the results they want. And I think as an influencer, there's always those temptations for the easy dollars, but those never work out in the long run.
No, and then I don't know, I'm not into that type of business. I reject all these things because I'm a scientist first, and you need to have certain credibility behind you to make statements. And for you guys, it's not difficult because you have that credibility on everything. And I've tested most of your product by myself. And magnesium is a funny story, because I tried different sources of magnesium, and some were like making me weaker, not capable of performing in calisthenics. And I was just like, what the heck is happening? One compound, one molecule. Anyway, jumping from the magnesium and staying in the brain area, you're probably someone that uses meditation as well. It's not a form of supplement, but is there a relationship between doing meditation and taking supplement in a way or another?
Yeah, I do actually believe that's true. So I've been meditating regularly. I think now we're getting closing in on 25 years. And what I would say is that the benefit of meditation, and it's difficult when you first start out and to get through that process, and to let go of the outcome is not a Western kind of mindset. But what it does, I believe, is cultivates perceptual acuity and awareness. So one becomes more able to access the more subtler energies of life, whether that's taste, touch, smell. So what's interesting is meditation is the disconnection from the senses into pure consciousness. The corollary benefit of is that when you do come out of meditation and activate the senses, the acuity of your sensory perception goes up.
Yeah.
And so you're much more able to pick up the subtle energies both within yourself and in the external environment. And that becomes, I think, a superpower in getting in the right vibes, feeling the right things, sensing what's right for you and what's not wrong for you. And I'll give you a funny story about that. A little while ago, I was speaking with one of the top genetic companies in the world, and the naturopathic doctor was interested in going over my genetics. And so we were going through the aspect, and she said, "This is really odd." She goes, how did you develop a system of eating and dietary practice that literally offsets about 95% of your genetic predispositions that would be detrimental or less positive outcomes? And I said, it's a great question. I said, because we didn't have access to this technology before, right?
Yeah, before, it's true.
But I developed an ability that I would try foods or try exercise, and I would feel if this was good for me. I would sense, I would literally, and even to this day, that's present. And then when I find out what's in it, then I go do the research. Now, it's not an absolute accurate system in the fact that there was
some curriculum, but yeah,
got exposed to, but it's been very good for me. And I've found a lot of people who are longtime meditators. And I would say, I would qualify that longtime meditators who do actively pursue diet and training. Well, there's meditators who don't do that, and there's meditators that do. They become very, they have a high level of acuity in what's right for your body and what's not. You feel it.
It's true. Yeah, I agree. So meditation is part of your life. You're this type of Zen person. Sleep is probably the other crucial part of your way of living and keeping up with not only being 50, but being a high performer. Last time we met was at the Biohacking conference in Los Angeles, and you had this product that you were super proud of. Actually, you had two products that I was intrigued. And one was this sleep helper that you were working on. Tell us about it. Yeah.
The compounds right here. So it's interesting. It stemmed from an argument, like a lot of things that happens for Matt and myself. Matt's a ketogenic guy. I'm a plant-based guy. We're the founders of the company. And what's been really great about our relationship is that our genetic predispositions and psychology and how are actually very opposite in nature. And so we were forced into conversations our entire career from different aspects. And that was a strength for both of us. He's taught me things that has enhanced my plant-based life. My plant-based life has enhanced his, and those are the right choices for us, but we don't advocate a particular dietary style to individuals. Let's separate the science and the religion of diets into what works for you. And so I was always a guy that operated on 6 to 7 hours sleep, felt great. Matt would sleep 9 or 10 hours and not feel recovered. And we would argue about how much sleep you needed. And I said, if I sleep 8 hours, I actually, my performance lowers.
Yeah.
Well, later on, we got into chronotypes, and Matt has invested a tremendous amount of money into his sleep system to optimize his sleep. And he's worked over it for years. But the big thing is we were looking at the broad sense of people who struggle from sleep problems. And, you know, there's the best practices, get the blue lights out, get the temperature cool, get a mattress that supports you. Those things are standard, not supplements. Those are absolute. But then you get into, is there supplementation that could enhance your sleep?
And make you fall asleep. Yeah. Or make you fall asleep faster. Yeah.
Exactly. So we were able to reverse engineer the science of sleep in both REM and deep sleep, as well as latency, like how quickly you go to sleep, which are the three aspects that you're looking at to have, quote unquote, a good night's sleep. You want to go to sleep quickly, you want to sleep deeply, and you want to have both rapid eye movement and deep sleep to get the full spectrum of correlated cognitive brainwave systems that create regeneration and recovery that sleep does. And when you line all those things up, well, thanks to technology and crazy experimentation, we were able to crack that code with our lab team. So we did 55 different iterations of the sleep formula to get what we have now today, which is a game changer. Most people who are tracking their sleep know that if you get an hour of deep sleep, that's pretty good. We're getting people that are having 2.5, 3 hours of deep sleep using our sleep formula. And then it's a system. We also have a sleep spray that can be taken, particularly if you're traveling or you need to reset your circadian rhythms. So that's an adjunct. Or particularly if you wake up, if you're one of those people that wake up a lot, you can quickly hit the spray and go back to sleep relatively quickly. And then we got another product that's going to come out probably in the new year for optimizing dreams as well.
Whoa!
For people who want dreams. So there's a craft for that as well. And so really, really exciting. And
that's interesting.
Thanks to our research team, we've been able to figure that out. And then we test it. And thanks to all the BioTribe members and BiOptimizers.
Yeah.
It's kind of, hardcore biohackers, testing everything. They come to our BioTribe and, we get them the products and then they give us data back in the real world outside our own science, our own biases. And then that feedback gives us a better idea of where can we steer a product to optimize for the general population.
Yeah. I was very intrigued into that product because first I've been an insomniac my whole life. I started to sleep when I got my daughter. Then I stopped to sleep when I sold my company. But a short story, having an hour of deep sleep for me would be a dream, and dreaming would be another dream. So when I looked at that product, I was just like, holy smoke, this is crazy interesting. And I've digged into it to find out what other biohackers were thinking about it. And because my concern was this one, most of the product on the market that makes you sleep, you wake up and your brain is a limbo.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's foggy and you're not functional. It takes you hours to emerge. Apparently not with yours.
Correct.
Is it because of in your system, like the time lapse of the duration of the product is made that way, then it stops and you go to your normal life?
That's part of it. The other part is the compounds that you're using. So for example, a lot of the people that have the fogginess or something are using what I call dirty compounds, pharmaceutical compounds, which have a side effect, or they're over leveraging melatonin. And I think that's a big issue. If you look at melatonin over the long period of time, it has deleterious effects. There is some argument of how much and how much volume, if you look at how much you produce them. And melatonin is very effective, particularly if you're traveling on a circadian rhythm. But after 3 days, you start running into issues with it. And now you need the dosage and everything messed up, and there's a cascade of negative effects. And then, the purity of the products that you use.
That's the other.
What's interesting is if you line up all the compounds that can enhance sleep, which we did, and then, or at least everything that we could come aware of, what we ending up at, after 55 iterations was you got to how many things can you take away to get to the result. So you start off almost with a shotgun shell.
Yeah.
And then you're playing with the volumes and the combinations. And then you start removing things to kind of optimize the form. It's really interesting. It's counterintuitive in a lot of ways. I think it was Da Vinci said that perfection is when there's nothing left to take away. And I understand that, because I think the tendency, especially as an American mindset, is if one compound's good, 50 compounds,
yeah, the
1 gram is good, 2 grams is better. And again, that goes back to what's the optimal dose? What is the optimal formulation? Which is always, again, that's our intention behind it. And we're never satisfied. Like we'll probably come out with a version the year after, as research goes, as new compounds get available to us, as we can. So we never rest on our laurels. We keep seeing if we can improve upon what we've already done.
Yeah, that's why you're still on the forefront and you're going to be staying in that position. It's because people cannot follow. They can only follow you. They cannot be before you because you're always progressing. You have various versions and coming up with the innovation. Quick, if you would like to finish on that other product that intrigued me was that supplement of proteins. I was very curious. You had that big jar of protein stuff and you had different product on that, and I was very, very curious to see what is it.
We've got 2 interesting compounds that I think is game changers. So number 1, our protein breakthrough product was a high protein plant-based protein that actually mixes up, tastes good, and doesn't screw up your digestion. Well, that took 147 experimental versions and 17 years to get to that product. That was really tough. And it tastes great and it mixes up.
Yeah,
and that's been something required for athletic performance, because I think the one of the benefits of a plant-based diet is it's great on the detoxification and fiber content, but on the downside, it tends to be low in protein and more difficult from an athletic perspective. Yeah. And we wanted to get past that. But then we had, so that we solved that problem. And then we've got a new version coming out next year that I was experimenting with on my pursuit to the Natural Olympia. And I can't release it, but I'm very excited about that. It's really cool.
It looks like
And then we had Polygenius. This has quickly become one of our sub brands is a company called Newtopia.
Yeah.
Now, Newtopia, our head researcher, Mr. Newts, Mark Effinger, is an expert in neurochemical combination, and he develops their formulation. But they came up with this product called Genius. And there's literally 1.4 pounds of concentrated mushroom extract in every serving. So if you look at the benefits of mushrooms, its ability, particularly for a regenerative aspect in our central nervous system and our brainstem, is very potent. The challenge is how do you get enough of that in there? So for example, like lion's mane for memory is well researched, but you need at least 3 grams a day to get the benefits that's derived in the laboratory setting. Yeah. Well, same thing with a lot of the other compounds is like, what is you can take reishi or you could take or any of those mushrooms and you can say, well, I've got 100 milligrams. Yeah, but what's the extract? How much is getting in your system? So is it a 10-to-1, a 20-to-1, 100-to-1 concentration or whatever? And so we've been able to maximize the concentrated level of the effective components of that, put it all in a delicious drink. And people have gone absolutely bananas with that product. I take it first thing in the morning. It's my favorite cognitive enhancer that we have produced. And we produced, I think now 11 different cognitive enhancement formulations with Newtopia. And Collagenius, I feel, is like the base because it gives the neurogenerative capabilities of your nervous system and brainstem to be able to leverage the benefits of other compounds as well. And it tastes great. We mixed it with collagen. Yeah. Taking collagen, then taking mushroom. Yeah. We got it all in one scoop. You love it. You taste it, and it makes your brain feel great. That's a big win.
And it makes your brain feel great for a certain time or during the whole day?
That's a whole day product, although some people will take, so there's 2 different camps. There's the camp that does like 2 scoops or 4 scoops in the morning and that's it. The heavy users will do 4 scoops. And then most people will find if they do a 2 and a 2, like 2 maybe first thing in the morning, and then I like 2 in the late afternoon or evening. Like, so I'll have Collagenius in the morning with my protein. So I mix the protein breakthrough, I mix the Collagenius, and I mix the biome breakthrough, the regenerative thing for the intestinal tract, all together in my morning mix because I want about 40 grams of protein, lots of mushroom compounds inside there, and all the bacteria and stuff that's going to break that down with my enzymes. So I mix that into a pudding and eat that in the morning. That makes me feeling great all the day. And then in the evening, after my last meal, I'll take 2 scoops of Collagenius and I make a little hot chocolate. So some people will add a little bit of like a creamer compound, like the Laird's creamer or one of those Bulletproof or the Keto creamers, one of those big things to cream it up. Mm-hmm. You can add a little bit of protein breakthrough. I like that as a hot chocolate to thicken up the mix because I do feel like it does a little better with protein. And then if you're more ketogenic, you would want to make sure you get your fats with it. And so you kind of mix and match how you like it, but that's the combination that I find best for me for feeling great all the time. And I feel more regenerated in the morning when I do Collagenius at night. So, but I like the general sense of well-being I have on it, so I also do it in the morning.
Yeah, you look so, every time I see you, you look like super rest and zen, so it must be working.
I can honestly say, like, I was getting ready for this Mr. Olympia at 50.
Yeah.
I was training twice a day weight training, and I was doing 1 and sometimes 2 cardio sessions a day.
Whoa.
As well as running my business. I felt amazing, and I'm in shock. I'm doing this, and I'm going, I don't believe that I feel this good, this close to the contest. And so I attribute it all to biohacking and shout out to all the biohacking advocates that I've been able to read and learn from over the years because I was leveraging all that tech.
Yeah, that's right.
I was using also, the HOCAT machine. I was doing an ad cell. I was doing hyperbarics, cryotherapies, nano V's, PM, PEM. So I was using a lot of technology. I don't want to say it was just all nutritional supplementation, because it's not just all that. And if people want to find out more, they can read our book, Sick to Superhuman, which you'll understand.
Fantastic. Yeah. Anyway, I'll put the links for that, as well as for your company, of course. Do you think that your success comes from the fact that you are surrounded by all these super elite people and mentors and friends that you have, that open doors for you, open doors in your mind, I would say, for you to explore and to bring back to the society through your supplements?
It's a great question. I think it started first with an intention. And our intention that Matt and I had was to end physical suffering and activate biologically optimized health. And we literally read that statement every single week to our entire team. And we explain the principles and ethical practices as best practices inside the company. So I do believe that when you set up a set of intentions for the world, right? Like an intention opens up. Our intention to help people, I think, is an attractive process to start. The second part of that is our commitment to excellence and producing the best products and services with the best customer service to help people, and reducing the test. Like, we have a money back guarantee. So that means it's a product that doesn't work with someone for some reason, well, they get their money back. So there's no risk to them, because we want to honor the people in the field, our customers who are out there testing us and give us the feedback that we true, right? So that creates a sense of goodwill. That goodwill spills out so that people become attracted to the brand, because we're not out to make a quick buck. We're going for excellence. And therefore, people who have that same nature gravitate naturally to the company. And then usually, by the laws of reciprocation in social services, say, hey, wait, have you heard about this? No, I haven't. And they're excited to share, to reciprocate maybe the value that they got. And then that spirals into, and then, talent that may be suffering in other companies want to be part of BiOptimizer.
Yeah.
So great people want to become part of the company. And then our recommitment to excellence allows us to go fund research and lab, because if it was all about making the money, we could cut a lot of that right now. I would live a lot better and have a lot more cash, but I don't care about that. I'm like, I mean beans and rice and
purpose
every day for the last 2 years, so it's not like I'm doing this, but I'm excited about that, and it's fun and exciting, and Matt's excited about it, the team's excited about it, and it's just great. And we read out all our customer testimonials every week to our team. And why do we do that? Because there's a lot of people that are involved in BiOptimizers, research, web development teams, customer service, affiliate managers. This is the big team doing everything. But we never want to lose sight of the experience that the customer has, and we want to share that, because it's the collective effort that does that.
True, everyone is involved.
So then it makes working hard more fun, as opposed to a drudgery. And, we got to work and support ourselves, and so do the people in our team. So why not make the place great and do something that's great in the world? And it builds momentum. And it wasn't always that way. We had to make the tough choices early. That sucked. Matt and I didn't pay ourselves for over a decade.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Like, we went all through those things. So when you're out there thinking about that, yes, play the long game. I would advocate for it, because it leads you in pathways that you never imagined. And now today, I'm just mesmerized all the time about that on the company.
Yeah, but this is so inspiring. Most companies don't work that way, and that's the problem. You're an entrepreneur. The entrepreneurial spirit is this, like, you have this type of compassion and empathy, and you want to share not only the success, but whatever the drawback and whatever it is, to everyone that works in your company. I love it. I think that some people should take example of that and implement that in corporate America. And make a change. Wait, you're an inspiring guy, 50, running for competition. Top shape and always smiling. Everywhere I see you, you're always smiling anyway. So there's not much I can say more than that. It's like it was a great pleasure having you on this podcast and talking and chatting with you. There's so many topics I wanted to cover, but we're done. We're up for a second one, talking about testosterone and all these things that are. I know that you have a great importance for you, but it's going to be on the second part of it next time.
Excellent. Look forward to that. Thank you for having me. It's a great honor, and I appreciate for the work that you're doing in the world. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Wade. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic evening.
You too.
Thanks, Wade. It was awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're inspiring. I love the grind that is behind your company. Like, it's very cool.
Yeah, thanks. I feel grateful every day. I mean, I'm blown away by it now. You know, we started out very humble beginnings with $200. We started the company with $200.
Yeah,
literally.